To understand the American Midwest is to first unlearn the map. For decades, the coastal imagination has reduced the vast expanse between the Alleghenies and the Rockies to a utilitarian grid, a three-dimensional spreadsheet of grain yields and interstate logistics. This is the flyover myth, a narrative of flat monotony designed by those who move too fast to notice the wrinkles in the earth. But if one slows the pace and follows the ancient river veins, a different reality emerges. Hidden within the creases of the Great Lakes and the limestone shadows of the Mississippi are sanctuaries of high culture and deep history. These are not merely towns, they are sovereign identities that have survived the homogenization of the American century through deliberate, often radical, strategic defiance. The story of these hidden gems begins not with the pioneer's wagon, but with a geological miracle. 10,000 years ago, the Laurentide ice sheet moved across the continent with the weight of mountains, grinding the peaks of the Midwest into the flat, fertile silt that would feed the world. Yet, in a fluke of physics that defies the surrounding geography, the glaciers bypassed a single pocket of land, the Driftless Area. While the rest of the region was scrubbed into a pool table, this corner was spared, left as a rugged kingdom of prehistoric valleys and jagged bluffs. It is here, in this geological sanctuary, that our journey begins. Number 1. Paraguay, the heart of the Chaco. Paraguay is a land defined by its hydrology. To the east, the lush, rolling hills are fed by the Paraná River. To the west lies the Gran Chaco. This isn't just dirt. The Chaco is a vast, semi-arid alluvial plain composed of sediment washed down from the Andes over millions of years. It is a flat, defiant landscape that resists easy conquest, a geological fortress. In the late 19th century, Paraguay was a nation on the brink of extinction. After the devastating Triple Alliance War, the country had lost more than half its population. Its response was a masterstroke of strategic survival, an open-door policy. They invited the world's outcasts, Mennonites from Russia, pioneers from Australia, and farmers from Europe, to tame the green hell of the Chaco. This legacy of the invitation remains in their DNA today. Why is it so cheap? Because Paraguay values utility over status. In regions like San Pedro or Itapúa, rural land can still be found for $500 to $1,500 per hectare. For the price of a modest used car, you can own a piece of the world's largest freshwater aquifer, the Guarani. Paraguay's Law 69/8422 recently modernized their residency, but the core remains: invest a modest sum, roughly $12,000, into a local bank or prove your commitment to the land. After 3 years of permanent residency, the path to naturalization opens. Is it merely a paper citizenship? No, it is an invitation to join a nation that has survived by being the island surrounded by land. Number 2, the Dominican Republic, the Caribbean bastion. The island of Hispaniola is a tectonic masterpiece. The Cordillera Central, the highest mountain range in the Caribbean, creates microclimates that range from alpine pine forests to tropical valleys. This isn't just a beach, it's a rugged perimeter. Since the arrival of Columbus in 1492, this has been the gateway to the Americas. The colonial architecture of Santo Domingo's Zona Colonial is built from coral limestone, a physical manifestation of the sea becoming the city. The settlers here didn't just build homes, they built a fortress of Spanish influence in the New World. While the resorts of Punta Cana command millions, the Cibao Valley offers fertile agricultural land for a fraction of the cost. Here, land isn't just for villas, it's for cacao, coffee, and the world's finest tobacco. An acre in the interior can still be secured for $2,000 to $5,000. Law 17107 offers a fast-track residency for retirees and rentisters. While the official Golden Visa requires $200,000, savvy investors often use the general residency path. By purchasing land and establishing a local business, you demonstrate genuine ties. After 2 years of permanent residency, you are eligible for citizenship. Why pay millions for a Mediterranean island when the cradle of the New World offers the same sun and a more robust legal shield for a tenth of the price? Number 3, Mexico, the volcanic legacy. Mexico is defined by the Trans-Mexican Volcanic Belt. This volcanic activity didn't just create mountains, it created the ultra-fertile Tierra Caliente. The soil is rich in minerals, allowing for an agricultural independence that most modern nations have forgotten. The concept of land ownership in Mexico is rooted in the ejido system, a post-revolutionary communal land grant. While foreigners cannot own land directly within 50 km of the coast, the restricted zone, the fideicomiso bank trust, provides an ironclad legal structure that has survived for decades. In the highlands of Chiapas or the valleys of Oaxaca, an acre of productive land can be acquired for the price of a mid-range motorcycle. These are areas where the Gilded Age of Mexican silver mining meets the modern era of the digital pioneer. Mexico doesn't sell passports, it rewards integration. Holding a temporary residency, granted easily if you own property, leads to permanent residency, which leads to naturalization after 5 years. In the shadow of the Popocatépetl volcano, one realizes that Mexican citizenship isn't just a document, it's a shield against the homogenization of the North. It is a return to a life where the land dictates the pace, not the clock. Number 4. Turkey, the Anatolian Bridge. Turkey sits atop the Anatolian Plate, a geological bridge suspended between Europe and Asia. This is a land of tectonic drama. The North Anatolian Fault has shaped a landscape of jagged mountains and fertile basins. The soil here is dark, mineral-rich, and stained with the history of the Hittites, Persians, Romans, and Ottomans. The concept of citizenship by investment in Turkey is a modern response to ancient pressures. Historically, Anatolia was the heart of the Silk Road. The caravanserais, ancient roadside inns, were the first globalist hubs. Today, the Turkish government has revived this spirit, inviting the world to anchor their wealth in Turkish soil to stabilize a fluctuating economy. In the rural Aegean or central Anatolian regions, land remains remarkably affordable compared to the hyperinflated markets of Istanbul or Bodrum. Agricultural property in provinces like Aydın or Muğla can be acquired for $1,000 to $3,500 per acre. You aren't just buying dirt, you are buying a piece of the cradle of civilization. Turkey offers one of the most direct real estate to passport pipelines in existence. While the fast track currently sits at a $400,000 property investment, the strategic play is the residency path. By purchasing land or a home valued at $50,000 to $75,000 in smaller cities, you secure a renewable residency. After 5 years of physical presence and a basic grasp of the language, the Turkish passport, a document that provides visa-free access to over 110 countries, is within reach. In Turkey, you aren't just an expat. You are a modern-day Silk Road merchant, securing your family's future at the intersection of 2 continents. Number 5. Greece, the Peloponnesian Retreat. The Peloponnese is a rugged limestone peninsula that feels like a world left behind by time. Its geography, deep gorges, hidden valleys, and high peaks, has historically protected Greek culture from total erasure during various occupations. Following the 2008 financial crisis, Greece's property market collapsed. This created a gilded age for foreign investors. The Greek spirit is one of fierce independence and philoxenia, love of strangers. In the rural heartlands of Arcadia or Messenia, agricultural land is often passed down through generations until it hits the market at prices that defy European norms, sometimes as low as $3,000 per acre. Greece's Golden Visa program is the most famous in Europe, while the threshold in Athens and Santorini is rising to €800,000. Tier 2 regions still offer entry points at €250,000 to €400,000. But here is the intellectual secret. Greece allows residency for economically independent persons. If you own a modest farmhouse and can prove a monthly income, you can live in the shadow of the Parthenon indefinitely. After 7 years of residency and an integration exam, you hold an EU passport, the ultimate shield of global mobility. Number 6. Colombia, the Andean Ascent. Colombia is a country defined by the three branches of the Andes. This geography created isolated cultural oases like Medellin and Manizales. For decades, this rugged terrain was a barrier. Today, it is a sanctuary. Colombia has undergone a transformation from a pariah state to a rising star. The strategic decision to open the country to foreign retirees and digital nomads was born out of a desire for internal resilience. The government realized that boots on the ground investors are more stable than speculative Wall Street capital. The Eje Cafetero coffee axis is where the value lies. In the Quindio or Risaralda departments, a functioning coffee finca farm with a colonial-style house can be bought for $130,000 to $180,000. Colombia's M-type migrant investor visa is triggered by a real estate purchase of approximately 350 times the national minimum wage, roughly $145,000. Unlike many European programs, this grants you the right to work. After 5 years of holding this visa, you can apply for permanent residency and shortly after, naturalization. Colombian citizenship is an insurance policy for the future. It is a country that is food independent, water-rich, and geographically shielded from many global conflicts. Number 7. Decorah, Iowa, the Valley of the Vikings. Our journey through the interior concludes in the Valley of the Vikings, Decorah, Iowa. Like Galena, Decorah is located in the Driftless Area, meaning it possesses a rugged, prehistoric topography that defies the flat Iowa stereotype. But Decorah's strength was not built on lead, it was built on the book. In 1861, Norwegian pioneers established Luther College on the banks of the upper Iowa River. This was a strategic masterstroke. By placing an institution of higher learning in a remote river valley, they ensured a constant influx of youth, ideas, and international connections. Decorah became the intellectual capital of Norwegian America, a place where the Old Norse sagas were studied with the same intensity as the latest agricultural techniques. The power of Decorah lies in its balanced ecosystem. It is a town that has mastered the rare art of being simultaneously rugged and refined. It is home to the Vesterheim, the National Norwegian-American Museum, which houses one of the most significant collections of immigrant artifacts in the world. Yet just outside the museum doors, the town transitions into a world-class outdoor destination. The upper Iowa River, with its towering limestone chimneys and crystal-clear spring-fed tributaries, offers some of the best kayaking and trout fishing in the country. The strategic decision to preserve these natural resources while fostering a highbrow academic culture has made Decorah immune to the brain drain that plagues so many other rural towns. Young people come for the college, but they stay for the ice caves, the craft breweries, and the sense of community. Decorah remains untouchable because it is a self-contained universe. It is a place where you can study Old Norse philology in the morning and be fly fishing in a primordial forest by afternoon. Synthesis of the interior oases. As we conclude this second part of our narrative, the theme of the interior oasis becomes clear. These towns, Pella, Stockholm, and Decorah, are not accidents of history. They are the results of deliberate, often difficult, strategic choices. They chose to be Dutch, to be small, to be academic. They used their cultural heritage not as a nostalgic anchor, but as a sail to catch the winds of the future. What makes them hidden gems is not just their beauty, but their resilience. They prove that in the heart of the continent, the most valuable resource is not the soil beneath your feet, but the vision in your mind. The architecture of the inland sea. The Midwest is often defined by its soil, but its true geopolitical and aesthetic power lies in its water. The Great Lakes contain 21% of the world's surface fresh water, an inland sea so massive it creates its own tides, its own shipwrecks, and its own weather systems that can bury a town in snow or bathe it in a Mediterranean mist. To the early pioneers, these lakes were both a highway and a wall. They provided a way to move the timber and ore that built the American century, but they also created pockets of land that were nearly impossible to reach by traditional overland routes. This geographical friction created a specific type of settlement, the Maritime Sanctuary. These are towns that do not look, smell, or feel like the Midwest of the popular imagination. They are fortresses of cedar, sand, and saltless spray hidden in the center of a continent. Number 8. Nashville, Indiana, the artist's canopy. 500 miles to the south, tucked into the rugged, unglaciated hills of Brown County, Indiana, lies a town that feels like a secret hidden under a perpetual canopy of oak and maple. Nashville, Indiana, is a study in geographic defiance. In the early 1900s, this area was considered a failed landscape by industrial standards. The soil was too thin for the massive corn operations of the north, and the terrain was too broken for the railroads to penetrate effectively. The progress that transformed the rest of Indiana into a manufacturing hub passed Nashville by, leaving it in a state of beautiful, primitive neglect. What the speculators saw as a dead end, artists saw as a sanctuary. In 1907, the Impressionist painter T.C. Steele discovered these hills, drawn by a unique atmospheric condition known as the Brown County haze, a soft, blue-violet light created by the heavy moisture of the forest floor. The strategic decision that made Nashville powerful was the establishment of the Brown County Art Colony. The town did not try to compete with the factories of Indianapolis or the mills of Gary. It leaned into its isolation. It invited the weavers, the potters, and the landscape painters to build their studios in the log cabins that the farmers had abandoned. Today, Nashville remains an untouchable artisan's village, where the economy is still driven by the handmade and the locally grown. It is a hidden gem because it serves as a psychological green belt for the Midwest. During the flames of fall, when the hills turn a violent shade of crimson and gold, the town becomes a place of pilgrimage. Its power is derived from the fact that it is a slow town in a fast world, a place where the landscape is the primary resident, and the people are merely its humble curators. Number 9. Pella, Iowa, the garden in the desert. The first of these anomalies stands as a tall wooden sentinel over the rolling hills of central Iowa. Pella was born in 1847 not from a desire for wealth, but from a desperate need for sanctuary. Nearly 800 Dutch immigrants, led by Dominee Hendrik Scholt, fled the Netherlands to escape religious persecution and economic hardship. They did not come to the Midwest to blend into the American melting pot. They came to build a city of refuge, which is the literal translation of the name Pella. The strategic genius of Scholt was his realization that for his people to remain a people, they needed to own the land and the aesthetic of the land. He purchased 18,000 acres of prime Iowa territory, but he didn't just subdivide it for farming. He designed a town that mirrored the canals and brickwork of the old country, creating a visual boundary that separated his followers from the surrounding wilderness. The power of Pella today lies in its absolute refusal to compromise on its visual identity. In most American towns, progress is synonymous with tearing down the old to make way for the new. In Pella, progress is defined by how well you maintain the discipline of the past. The strategic decision was made in the mid-20th century to enforce architectural standards that required even modern businesses to incorporate Dutch elements, steeply pitched roofs, ornate gables, and decorative brickwork. This is not a gimmick. It is a local law designed to protect the town's brand and its soul. The centerpiece of this defiance is the Vermeer Mill, a fully functional 18th-century grain mill transporting from the Netherlands and reassembled in the heart of the town. Standing over 100 feet tall, it is the tallest working grain mill in the United States, a functional monument to the Dutch mastery of the wind. When the annual Tulip Time Festival arrives, and the streets are filled with the rhythmic clatter of thousands of wooden shoes, it is not merely a performance for tourists. It is a ritual of rededication to a specific way of life. Pella remains untouchable because it has successfully commodified its own order. It is a town that has turned discipline into a high-value export. Number 10. Grand Marais, the Arctic harbor of the arts. Grand Marais is a town defined by its strategic remoteness. To understand this harbor, one must understand that for much of its history, it was more connected to the world by water than by land. Founded as a fur trading post and later a fishing and lumber hub, it sits on a double bay protected by a natural breakwater of dark, basaltic rock. In the late 1800s, this was a frontier outpost where the survival of the community depended entirely on the arrival of the steamship America. When the lake froze, the town was effectively cut off from the rest of civilization. This was not seen as a hardship, but as a filter. It ensured that only the most resilient, the most self-sufficient, and the most creative individuals would call this harbor home. The power of Grand Marais lies in its artistic resilience. In 1947, a visionary named Bernie Quick founded the Grand Marais Art Colony, the oldest in Minnesota. The strategic brilliance of this move cannot be overstated. By establishing an intellectual and creative anchor in a remote fishing village, the town avoided the boom and bust cycle that destroyed so many other resource-based communities. While the timber industry faded and the commercial fishing docks grew quiet, the painters, the potters, and the traditional craftspeople moved in. Today, Grand Marais is the cultural capital of the North Woods, home to the North House Folk School, where people travel from across the globe to learn the ancient arts of timber framing, birch bark canoe building, and winter bushcraft. The town is a hidden gem because it represents the ultimate edge culture. It is the gateway to the Boundary Waters Canoe Area wilderness, over 1 million acres of protected, roadless forest. The town's architecture reflects this proximity to the wild. It is a collection of sturdy, cedar-shingled buildings and harborside cafes that feel like they have been weathered by 1,000 storms. Grand Marais remains untouchable because it is the last stop. Beyond it, there is only the wilderness and the international border. It has used its geographic isolation to foster a community that values craft over consumption and silence over noise. It is a place where the aurora borealis is the evening's primary entertainment, and the power of the town is found in its quiet, unshakable competence. The final synthesis, the untouchable heartland. As we look back at our journey across these 10 hidden gems, from the red brick terraces of Galena to the Bavarian spires of Frankenmuth, from the Dutch canals of Pella to the Viking valleys of Decorah, and finally to the rocky harbor of Grand Marais, a profound strategic pattern emerges. These towns are not quaint by accident, they are powerful by design. Every sentence of their history is a testament to the fact that the Midwest is not a flyover region, but a collection of fortified cultural identities. Each of these communities made a series of defiant choices that allowed them to survive the homogenization of the American continent. They utilized 3 primary strategies to achieve their untouchable status. First, the strategy of aesthetic discipline. Towns like Pella and Frankenmuth realized early on that a strong visual identity is a form of cultural armor. By enforcing architectural standards and celebrating their ethnic roots, they created a brand that is immune to the changing whims of modern development. They are not just places to live, they are destinations to be experienced. Second, the strategy of geographic leverage. Towns like Galena, Bayfield, and Stockholm used their rugged, difficult topography to their advantage. They turned the very features that discouraged industrial expansion, the hills, the bluffs, and the icy waters, into natural barriers that protected their history. They realized that in a world of flat, interchangeable suburbs, a difficult landscape is a high-value asset. Third, the strategy of intellectual hubbing. Towns like Decorah, Nashville, and Grand Marais recognized that for a small town to remain relevant, it must produce ideas, not just commodities. By fostering colleges, art colonies, and folk schools, they ensured a constant influx of human capital that keeps their traditions alive and their economies vibrant. These 10 towns form a secret map of the Midwest, a map that reveals the heartland as a collection of sovereign, resilient, and deeply soulful identities. They are the hidden gems we wish we had found sooner because they offer a glimpse of an America that is still textured, still distinct, and still connected to its roots. They are untouchable because they are built on foundations of laid, stone, timber, and tradition, materials that do not fade with the passage of time. In an era where every highway exit looks the same and every city feels like a copy of a copy, these towns remain the great exceptions. They remind us that the most powerful thing a community can do is to be itself, with absolute, unwavering intensity. They are the heart of the heartland, and they are waiting for those who are willing to look beyond the horizon.